So we're going to start moving into the theme, Dhyana through the body, and just a few words, as introduction to that. So I've been I would say that my history of my relationship with Dhyana goes back, way before I was even ordained, so back when I started practicing the Dharma in the mid-70s. I was aware of this Dhyana thing, and once I was involved with the FRBO, as it was back then, it was a really big thing getting into Dhyana. People used to go off on solitaries to get into Dhyana, and that seemed to be the main objective on retreats as well. And I must admit, looking back to how I practiced in those days, and compared with what I know now, I was basically always forcing it. I thought you could sort of blow your way into, in the explosive sense, into Dhyana, just by using a lot of kind of force and effort and really hard concentration. And I got into some states, certainly. I don't know what they were. They might, I think it might have been Dhyana sometimes, but, generally speaking, the approach that I think a lot of us had back in those days was a bit kind of, we didn't know a lot. It's just like, most of us hadn't been practicing for that long. And we had to find out by trial and error. But I must admit that trial and error has been greatly aided for me by some people who have now, put stuff out there, have written about Dhyana, and especially Lee Bressington. This is his book. This is the book, as far as I'm concerned, on for the practice of getting into Dhyana. I mean, there are others, and I've also benefited from teachings by General Ingram, and who I might refer back to, and Kenneth Folk, who are both kind of generally practitioners within the Burmese tradition. So I picked up on various hints over the years, and I think probably what I brought to that myself is a realization that it's absolutely vital to be embodied. If we try and if we try to get into Dhyana, we're probably not going to get there anyway. So we have to discover the body and be embodied, and then we can make a start in actually exploring these states. Now, the Dhyanas are natural states. There are states which are available to us. But the first, you say the prerequisite is being able to be steadily in our experience of the body. Now, when I say the body, I include the breath. I include the breath in the body. The breath is body sensations. If we're not exploring the breath from the point of view of, again, what I would call somatic embodiment, that is embodiment in the energy of the body, the direct experience of the body. If we're not doing that, we're not going to get very far with, even identifying the breath, let alone getting into Dhyana. Now, I think, I'm not going to give a long spiel now, because whatever I need to say will come out over the course of the morning, the afternoon, and tomorrow. But what I want to focus on first of all is just the body, getting into our body, finding some degree of embodiment, and then beginning to notice I suppose you could call it the somatic energy of the body. Now, somatic energy might just be another way of saying sensations. But it is noticing that those sensations have a vibrational or energetic nature. And once you begin to identify that anywhere in your body, you've got something there which you can use in order to become more absorbed. So first of all, we just do some practice getting into the body. And then we're going to look at the initial, or move towards the initial level of absorption, which is generally referred to as access or upachara samadhi. Now, with regard to the word samadhi, it's often translated as concentration. That word can be misleading because it does suggest, well, it suggests to a lot of people's minds that somehow you've got to make a kind of very forced effort to stay with the breath. And maybe the way in which we structure the mindfulness of breathing, the way that Sangrashta taught it, where it seems that the culmination of it is where you're really focused on the sensations around the nose. So it's like you're kind of literally looking at your nose, you're focusing on your nose, all your concentrated energy is going onto your nose, and well, you have a great experience of your nose basically, but I don't think it's necessarily a way into dhyana. Yeah. So yeah, I prefer Lee Brassington uses the word undistractability for samadhi, undistractability, or not being distracted basically. So upachara samadhi, access concentration or access undistractability, is the state in which we're not being carried away, and we're not being carried away in particular by the hindrances. Yeah. So that's, in a way, that's our main objective at the moment, is simply to come into what I would also refer to as embodied presence. Yeah. And presence means presence in the body. You could say we are fully present in the body rather than having a sense of being an external observer of the body. So when I say we are in the body, what I really mean is that awareness is in the body. Yeah. And we have the capacity, I mean, nobody quite knows what awareness is, but we do have the capacity to do things with it. We can focus it, we can discern with it. Yeah, we can have a broad awareness, we can have a narrow awareness. All of this is available. But the important thing is that that awareness is present in the body to start with. Okay, so we're going to do some work with just becoming basically embodied, and then with sort of ways of looking at the hindrances, working with the hindrances, and getting into access or presence in the body. And then we can really start, you could say. Access samadhi is where, well, I mean, that's why it's called access, because it's access into the jhanas. Yeah. And yeah, well, let's see where it goes. Just one thing which I'll say while I remember is that and, ideally this would have been a weekend at the Shrewsbury Centre, but it's great that people who couldn't have been there are here. But I think for it to be most effective, you have your own place and your own lives. But if you can have as quiet a weekend as possible, and if possible, like tomorrow morning, do a period of meditation in the morning, at least one period before we have the session, and generally just try to be fairly quiet. I mean, maybe don't use the internet too much, don't watch Netflix tonight. Note to self as well. Just sort of have a weekend in which you're being fairly quiet and calm, and do some more practice if you can, even in the evening, depending on what's going on for you. Okay, well, let's just start. Let's just do a practice. So first thing, just get whatever posture you find most comfortable. So it's important in meditation generally, but especially I think with regard to Dhyana practice, to let the body be comfortable. So the posture needs to be comfortable, but also alert. So I'm just going to bring some awareness to that in a moment. Now, once you're settled in your posture, we'll just sit for a few moments. And we're just sitting mainly to notice, to be aware of what's going on in the body, in the mind, in the other sense fields. But principally, we're interested in what's going on with the mind. So we're not trying to do anything with the mind, simply notice what it's up to, what its quality is, whether it's busy, quiet, whatever. So we spend a great deal of our lives in the mind, where the mind is the predominant experience. And sometimes the mind is so dominant that we're barely aware of the body and the other sense fields arising. So let's bring the awareness to some quite relatively strong and distinct sensations in the body. And that is the sensations that you can feel now of contact with the seat and the floor. So sensations around the buttocks, the sitting bones, and depending on whether you're sitting on, depending on how you're sitting, around the legs and the feet. So be aware of those quite strong sensations. Got the whole weight of the body going down through that contact with the seat and the floor. And generally, let your awareness take in the whole of the legs, the feet, these sensations of contact included, and the pelvic floor, so the whole pelvis area. And this is the grounding of our posture. So at the moment we're looking for presence of awareness in these sensations. Notice that there may be a sense in which you, a sense of me, is up in the head, kind of looking down at these sensations. And notice that that sense of you is just something that you're, in a sense, it's a thought, it's a view that you're up there. So notice that the awareness of these sensations is just in those sensations. It's not in some sense coming from the head or located in the head. So be quite clear that, directly clear in experience, that these are the actual sensations. It's not the mind creating a mental equivalent of those sensations. It's just the direct sensations themselves. And then a method that you could try, which, well, some of you who have done stuff with me recently will know, for bringing a sense of lift into the upper body and also energizing the upper body, in fact the whole body, is imagining that you're breathing down through the pelvic floor into the earth below. And if you imagine the earth as not kind of rocks and soil and all that kind of geological stuff, but as just energy, as having its own energy, chi or prana are words for it. So you're breathing down into that space of the earth. And then on the in-breath, the breath comes up through the pelvic floor and goes right up the body, towards the rear of the body, to the top of the head, and even possibly above the top of the head. So just try that a few times if you wish and see whether it has an effect on the posture, a sense of alignment, a sense of energy and lift. And you can use a slightly stronger breath for this exercise. And as with everything that I say over this weekend, notice whether what I suggest is helpful or not. So that needs to be evaluated. Is this helping get a sense of lift in the upper body? And it's enough to do just a few rounds of breathing, then let the breath just be natural. Let the breath do itself again. Keep that sense of lift. And a subtle adjustment. Check the chin is not sort of jutting out or pulled too far in. It needs to be sort of halfway, just so that the head is well balanced and in alignment with the lower body and the spine. And again, this contributes to comfort in the posture. And also another subtle adjustment, maybe necessary, may not. Just check whether there's a sense of the upper body leaning too far in any direction. So you can just move the body back and forth, left and right, very subtly to get a sense of the point in which it's just well poised, vertically poised. And then starting from the top of the head, just check for holdings on or contractions, muscular contractions. And see what you can let go. So you start with the forehead is a good place to check, the eyes, the cheeks, and around the mouth, the tongue, the jaw, particularly the joint of the jaw. What can you relax? What can you let go of? Throat, shoulders, shoulder blades, the whole chest, the whole rib cage. The whole abdomen. The arms and the hands. The hips. And the legs and feet. So it's very unlikely that you can let go of everything, but you're probably aware of areas in which you do tend to hold. So just discover and experience how much you can let those holdings go, those contractions go. And then sit with a sense of the whole breathing body, the whole somatic or sensate body. And again, notice, without sort of thinking about it, but notice with awareness what's going on with the mind now. Is it quiet? Is it busy? Are you thinking about some particular thing? Is there mental proliferation, emotional proliferation? It's like still having a sense of the body, sensate body overall, but aware of what's going on with the mind and what's arising from the other sense fields. And more subtly, notice whether there's a sense of presence in the body, in the soma, in the sensations, or being present to the body, a sense of some degree of separation from the body, of me being present to the body. So just feel into your experience, see which of those is more closer to what you're experiencing. Presence in or present to. So at this point, you're using the discerning quality of awareness to discern how it is with the body and the mind, and what is needed now. Yeah, so for instance, if there's a lot of proliferation or propuntia going on, it might well be beneficial to focus on one area of the body, one area of the breathing, and it might be necessary to use counting, as in the first two stages of the mindfulness of breathing. On the other hand, thinking may be more kind of in the background, and you could easily stay with awareness of the breathing body as now, which is probably something like the third stage of the mindfulness of breathing. Or you could choose to focus on one area. So you're probably, if you've been doing the mindfulness of breathing in the way it's taught in Dhyana, you're probably used to that area being around the nose or the upper lip. But it doesn't have to be. It could be more effective to notice the sensations of breathing in the lower abdomen, for instance. And just discern, see what's needed, and experiment. You feel free to bring your awareness to wherever it seems appropriate to bring it into those sensations. So whether the focus is broad or narrow, whatever method you're using at the moment or whatever area you're using, just notice what effect that has on the mental activities. And again, it's important not to think about that, but notice with this discerning quality of awareness. And it may be fairly obvious that awareness keeps on coming back to the mind, keeps on proliferating. But it also may be more subtly obvious that awareness is primarily now in the body, in whatever area of body sensation you're currently focused, and of the breath that you're currently focused on. If you notice any physical tension building up anywhere, just bring awareness into it and see, can it be released? Can it be relaxed? Okay, now let go of making any effort and just sit. Any deliberate effort, let go of it. What happens when you let go of effort? I'm always interested to hear people's observations. So, particularly what went on there, particularly with regard to that last bit where I asked you to look at effort or the quality of effort being made. So, any observations on that or anything else generally from your practice just now? And don't forget to unmute if you're going to say something.
Hello.
Oh.
I could definitely feel this awareness move more up to the front, so it seemed like my effort had been more about keeping more lower in the body. It's interesting to see that it might be because of the focus in normal mindfulness of breathing that it is more here.
Yeah.
I could feel this woo.
Yeah. So was that kind of the habitual thing? It was coming back up here.
Maybe, yeah, I would think so. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It might be perfectly fine for it to be there. The main thing that we're looking at the moment is, to what extent it can remain undistracted. Yeah. With whichever sensations you're focusing on. But it's worth, that bit where I said, just, discern what's needed at this point. Part of that, if it's a lot of proliferation, then probably what's needed is counting or something like that, or at least having quite a strong focus. But it might be something more subtle. And if you're beginning to get a sense of the body overall, of the soma overall, you might find that awareness wants to go somewhere. Yeah, and it might not be the habitual place. It might be somewhere else. It might be the heart. It might be down in the abdomen. Just notice where it wants to go, and let it go there, and then see what happens. Once it's gone, for the rest of that session, it's probably as well to keep it there. But unless, for instance, a lot of proliferation starts up again, in which case you can obviously, we're familiar with the idea of bringing it back to the sensation. So just bring it back to the sensations you were focusing on before. So any other observations?
What about my main sensation was of it wasn't stable, but it's about losing that sensation of some sort of awareness into a feeling or an awareness of being unaware, I suppose.
What do you mean by unaware? How do you know you're unaware?
A feeling that you're, let's say, just to make it, an analogy, you're in a room or you're outside in the fresh air. And I couldn't stabilize that.
Yeah.
It seemed to go with the breathing.
Okay.
And what I find helpful with that is some external sound. Can I hear birds where you are?
Well, I can hear birds.
You can hear birds?
Yes.
Oh, you can't hear birds?
No, I can.
Yes,
there are birds.
Yes, I could hear the birds.
Yeah.
So that sort of external sound seems to help to stabilize it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good. I mean, I would say that you can use anything that helps you stabilize. Yeah. So, you know, if opening out to sounds does actually help, then, you know, that's fine. Yeah. So, I mean, don't feel that you, in a sense, there aren't any rules with this practice. You know, there are certain principles which are helpful. You know, but, you know, I mean, I think most people, you know, from a kind of traditional point of view would say, well, no, ignore the birds, just concentrate on your whatever. Yeah. But, you know, my approach is see if it's useful. Yeah. If it helps keep you undistracted, then it's useful. Yeah. You could even, you know, for now, you could make the birds your object of awareness. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could I just ask about the hands?
Yes.
I've just find, and I've found it before, that somehow the hands don't seem included,
Hmm. In
and so I suddenly feel where are they supposed to go?
Well, I mean, you know, as long as you've got them comfortably resting on your knees or, you know, folded in your lap, the sensations of the hands are just part of the sensation of the body. Yeah, so you could just notice, well, there are all these body
Yes,
sensations, and that includes the hands.
yes,
But you're not
yes.
necessarily focusing on the hands.
No, it just seems something important about them in holding or not holding.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing I want to say just was that when you say proliferation, what seems to happen for me is a kind of thickness in the mind. I mean, it's as if everything gets stuck in the mind, and then gradually that's just dissipated rather
Right.
well. And that was
Yeah.
very nice. It just somehow just went into the back or the, and that was really good. Thank you.
That's good. Yeah.
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 And
So I mean, that's another way of,
something
it's another way of talking about some kind of, you know, well, something mental that is obstructing you from being fully embodied, really. You know, so when that drops away, as you say, you know, things become much more present and lighter in a way. Okay. Angie?
Thank you. Good morning, Tejananda. I noticed that when the mental proliferation calms down, my tendency is to get into something like a dream state. And initially I realize that it's happening again and I can bring myself back to the body, but eventually that sort of takes over.
Yeah.
I kind of lose it, which is sort of disappointing. Can you help me with what I could do about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that might be something to do with sloth and torpor. You're getting into a bit of a dreamy state. And in which case, well, I'll mention this now because I was going to say it anyway. What you can do with the hindrances, basically, you could see them as being energy going in I can't say this, energy going in an unhelpful direction, metaphorically speaking, and in some senses, literally speaking. You know, so it's just like when we're in sloth and torpor, it's like the energy is going down. You know, and you as everyone knows, you know, sometimes you find yourself nodding. I've even known people's heads to hit the floor at Vajraloka. They're falling asleep completely. You know, so it's going down. Yeah. So the thing to do there, I mean, a general thing is to bring the awareness up. Yeah, to bring the awareness up to the top of the head, maybe even right to the right at the crown of the head. There's a, if you sort of just bring awareness there, there's a little kind of tingle, and you know that's one area that you could bring it to. The tingle's quite interesting in itself. You can even let awareness go way above the head. Yeah, just have a sense of going up into the sky, and of course open the eyes. Yeah, and then you know just check. You know, check again that you are embodied. You know, don't just go up in your imagination. You know, it's more like just having a sense of up and awake. and that can help just sort of knock you out of a dreamy state. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can
Now
I just,
I'll just finish off this because I want to go through how we can deal in this way with the basically with the hindrances. So you've got downward going energy, which I've just mentioned. There's also upward going energy, which is around the head, and it's around anxiety or doubt. So that's two of the hindrances, both of which are quite heady. And for kind of heady sort of, when there's a lot of heady stuff going on, bring the awareness down. So you've got the awareness of the, we started with the sensations of grounding with the, the seat and the floor, or you can have some, the sensations in the pelvic floor, the perineum, and the contact with the seat or cushion there, or generally around the lower abdomen. So sometimes I get people to have a sense of breathing into the lower abdomen, which there's an area there which is known in Far Eastern Buddhism as hara, or the lower dantian. So it's the middle of the lower abdomen, and you can have a sense of breathing into there. All of those bring the energy down, and sort of, so metaphorically speaking, away from all this proliferation up here. Now, the other two are basically desire and aversion. So metaphorically and sometimes literally, when there's desire, you're moving towards, you might even find if there are desirous thoughts going on, your body is just slightly going forward. And if there are aversive thoughts going on, you're tending to, metaphorically, not as exaggeratedly as I'm doing it now, but there's a sense of backward energy, backward moving energy. So if you notice that with either desire or aversion, what I found effective is bringing awareness to the heart, and not just I mean, most people will talk a bit more about the heart in due course, but there's the front of the heart and the sort of middle of the chest where most people feel the heart center to be, but bringing awareness behind that, so more towards the spine and into the core. The core is the sort of, you could say it's what's in some traditions called the central channel. Don't be too concerned about identifying that, but it's just like having a sense that it's behind the heart. Now, if you're desiring, you can bring the energy back into that area behind the heart. And if you're aversive, you can bring it, metaphorically forward to that area. And that sort of brings you back into, well, it brings the posture back into a kind of poised position, but it also brings the awareness back into poise. So these are ways in which you can work directly with the hindrances as kind of energy. So if the energy is going down, bring it up. If it's going up, bring it down. If it's going forward, bring it back. And if it's going back, bring it forward to the area behind the heart. And experiment. I find the area behind the heart is good for that, but you might find it's lower down or higher up. So just experiment and find what is effective. And what I've found good about this is that it's quite direct. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to think of all the different antidotes to the hindrances. It's quite direct and immediate, and it becomes intuitive quite quickly. So bear that in mind if you're noticing particular hindrances arising. Okay, does anyone else have a remark or a question?
Yes, Tejananda. I take my awareness down to the hara region as a matter of practice to get out of mental proliferation. And when you just asked us to just drop the effort, my awareness went up, but not into mental proliferation. I became aware of really what was quite pleasant sensations behind my eyes, which I've never experienced before.
Mm.
And I kind of wonder whether what I do somatically by taking my energy down to the hara is actually already become a thing of habit. So like I've trained myself to do it. So it's almost like a Pavlovian reaction to any possibility of prapancha.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is quite possible, Andy. And in a way, it doesn't matter as long as it's effective. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you habitually bring your awareness to anywhere, the only time in which that becomes a problem is if actually it would be more effective for the awareness to be somewhere else. Yeah. So again, you need that sensitivity and discernment to, you know, is it okay for it to be in the hara? You know, and now you've discovered this thing around the eyes. Well, you know, that's another resource for your awareness to go there. Yeah. You know, it's really good. I think for everybody, you know, we're so used to being in the thinking head. If we can be in the somatic head and the space of the head, discover the space of the head, you know, then that's really, really helpful. Okay, any more questions?
Yeah, can I just say, when I'm meditating like this, I've meditated with you before quite a while ago.
Yeah.
What happens is quite bizarre in some ways, because I get to a certain stage in that meditation and it splits into two. So I get a male half and a female half. So it's almost like you've got, I'm keeping an eye on both of them.
Yeah.
And they're both part of the experience.
Well, yeah.
And one wouldn't be right without the other one. It's the only kind of time when I get anything like this.
Well, I mean, in a sense, that's okay. It's just if you can be aware of them both together, you know, just know that they're, you know, there is that experience, there is that distinction, but you know, also, you know, they're part of a wholeness. You know, they're not separate. So if you get fixated on one or the other, you know, that would take it in a certain direction. But if you can be aware of both together, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Is that Jackie trying to attract my attention, or are you just moving your hand? Okay. Be careful. And by the way, bear in mind that we've got 2 pages here. I've got 2 pages, so I can't necessarily see you if you're waving your hand.
Bernie here. Can I say something?
Yeah. Sure.
Hi. Just something that I just found helpful. I noticed I found the distinction between being aware, kind of in awareness, and aware of from you know, from my mind, quite a hard, not a hard distinction to recognise, but a hard shift to make.
Yeah.
And what I found helpful was if I actively look for a pleasant sensation, then actually it was much easier to be in it, as like as if my mind kind of takes over if it's unpleasant, it wants to look at it.
Yeah.
But it was easy, and that was helpful for me. I just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, well, that is good, and it's also part of the next stage of the practice. So, you know, looking for pleasant sensations is very much part of it. Yeah, so we'll go more into that. I just also wanted to say a bit more about that, you know, that last bit about effort. Yeah, and I mean, I was hoping that, I think some of you did notice that when I asked you to stop making an effort, that didn't necessarily mean that you immediately went into proliferation. Yeah, maybe you actually at that point became more present. Yeah. So what I'm getting you to notice there is that the quality of effort needed is the minimum possible at all times. Yeah. And when I say the minimum possible, I mean that if you're using too much effort, that is a waste of, you know, that's a waste of energy. Yeah. If you've got really strong, persistent prapancha, you do need to use quite a bit of effort to, you know, just sort of keep coming again and again back into the sensations of the body that you're focusing on. Yeah, so that does need a fair bit of effort, but most people still continue to use more effort than they need. So just notice the minimum effort that just keeps you present in the sensations that you're focusing on. So that's something to always bear in mind. Use the minimum effort possible. There's a kind of feeling, I think, we're culturally conditioned to think that the more effort you make, the more success you'll have. Well, that isn't the case, probably generally, but definitely in terms of cultivating these absorbed states. So the minimum possible effort. You'll, I hope, be pleased to hear. Okay. Let's just do one more practice then, and we'll sort of continue to take it a little bit further. I mean, obviously, with all of you and myself, you're all going to be in different states and different conditions with regard to this stuff. So, I'm just going to sort of assume a steady kind of development, whereby now we're about to enter into access. So we're moving towards that. But of course, you need to work where you are at all times. So that said, let's just do another practice, a short one, about 20 minutes, and then we'll have a short break. So as before, get your basic comfortable position, posture. And then just sit. So in just sitting, we're not trying to go anywhere other than where we are or be anything other than what's happening right now. And awareness takes in what is happening right now. And as I say, particularly with regard to the body and the mind, the somatic body and the mind. Now, one little additional factor, this idea comes from Lee Brassington, which is just briefly to open up to metta. So let go of any idea that you can't just do that, or that you have to do the full 5-stage practice. Just see if you can connect with metta from the heart, or just from your being. Just a sense of general care, love, kindness, goodwill in your being. and pervading your body. So we're engaging with the practice from the perspective of kindness. Indeed, the practice is an act of kindness. And then bring awareness to the sensations of the grounding of the posture. Be in those sensations. Feel the support of the earth's gravity. And then, if you wish, you can use the breathing up from the earth to bring lift. Just a few rounds of breathing in that way. At the same time, aligning the head, aligning the chin. And then letting the breath be natural. Checking for poise in the upper body. Notice that you can only do this checking somatically with awareness. You can't do it with the thinking mind. And then scanning through, releasing whatever tensions, holdings, contractions you can through the body, from the top down to the bottom of the feet. And then initially, just let the awareness take in the whole of the sensate breathing body. And sense where the awareness can most beneficially be in terms of establishing steadiness of awareness. It could be the whole breathing body, as we are now. It could be focusing on one area and using counting. Or you could just discover where the awareness seems to want to be. You know, what area of the body, what area of the breathing. What is it that supports awareness being present in those sensations? And if you can identify a hindrance, then bear in mind the bringing the awareness, as it were, to the opposite place in the body that I went into as a possible approach. What is it that supports your becoming less distracted? Is there a sense of embodied presence in the area that you're focusing on? Or is there a sense of being separate from it, as in looking down from above or some such orientation? Can you be present in the sensations fully present in the sensations. How far can you relax your effort without becoming distracted? Let the awareness recognize or discern whether hindrances are present or not. Generally, whether the mind is distracted or not. And if hindrances aren't present, then you may be able to let your awareness of your area of focus be more subtle, less effortful. Just release all effort. Let go of any sense of doing a practice. Okay, any observations on that practice before we have a break? Did anyone find it sort of moving into the area of access? Or the opposite? Susie?
It's really lovely being given permission to not do effort. And literally, things fell away. It was as if awareness suddenly became just awareness.
Mm.
and sound was arising within awareness, and the bird was arising, the car going by was arising, sensation of foot was arising.
Yeah.
And then it
Right.
went, and then I sort of said to myself, let go, and then that spaciousness came back again.
Yeah.
It's really interesting being given permission. There's something deep in there.
Yeah. Well, there is. I mean, there is literally something deep in there, and furthermore, it's always there. Yeah, it's just like you're noticing something about your natural state.
Yeah, and there's something deep about being given permission that needs to be worked with as well, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
You know, our society doesn't. There's always striving, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, striving is sometimes necessary, but I think it's generally a bit overrated.
That was great. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else?
I like very much the question you asked. Like how far can you let go of your effort and still be in awareness?
Yeah.
I found that because I always tend to. It's always you are working with opposites, aren't you? It's always. So I found it very helpful. Thank you very much. To really to concentrate on focusing on working with this. It's difficult to explain.
Yeah, sure.
But
anyway, I'm getting the impression generally that it worked for you quite well. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other observations? Yes.
Hello.
Such nothing.
Hello. Yes, I felt like I was dipping in and out of access concentration, and so then my mind, I felt a great sense of. I noticed it in my throat and in my hands, and thought drops away, and I just feel very present. I can't. Yes, that's it. And then a thought comes, perhaps about a project I'm working on.
Yeah.
And then another thought came. I can just think about that later. And so then I come back in to that experience of being very. It's almost kind of exquisite, beautiful, connected, lovely sensations in the body.
Yeah.
So I was sort of dipping between. And then perhaps another thought about a project would come back because it's quite a pervasive habit of mine. But I did also have a thought about effort, and I couldn't quite work out what effort was. I mean, I'm sort of intellectually aware of what effort is, but I couldn't quite work out what effort was required. So I felt a bit confused, I think, about that.
Conceptually confused.
Yeah, I think conceptually confused.
Yeah.
I just dropped it.
Yeah. It's just it's a good question. What is effort? But it's a quality that we have to. You could say focus and retain focus, for instance. Yeah. In this case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, well, what is needed to retain that focus on whatever you're focusing on? And as I'm saying. What you're looking for is the bare minimum that keeps your focus there. So call it effort or whatever you like, but it's just the bare minimum, whatever, that keeps your awareness there.
Yes. Yeah, that's just something for me to sit with and explore a bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, I know, I mean, back in the day, we haven't done this for a long time at Vajraloka, but there used to be an exercise where you get people to make maximum effort. Say, be aware of your nose. Keep on your nose. Kind of thing. And get a sense of making a strong effort, which is very unpleasant actually. And then now make no effort. And most of the time, people find that by making no effort relative to that very intense apparent effort, they're much more present. So it's just like it's just learning these things, and as I say, I think we're a bit culturally we have this cultural tendency to think that making an effort involves tension, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas, awareness is there when we're completely relaxed. I mean, it's there all the time, but it's more evidently there when we're completely relaxed. Mm.
Hello, Tejananda.
Oh, who's that?
Alan.
Alan, hello.
Hello. Yeah, is it almost like saying it doesn't really matter?
Sorry?
Is it almost like saying it doesn't really matter whether I'm present or not?
Oh, well,
just sort of relaxing into that, it doesn't matter.
It could do. I mean, that could work for you. Sometimes it might matter, and insofar as there's, it might be just the right thing for you at that time. But other times it's like, well, there is some sort of effort needed, and it might, it still needs to be the minimum to kind of get the job done. Yeah. So it's just like there's no kind of right way every time. It's just like we're constantly kind of, you could say we're constantly, awareness is constantly surfing on the edge of this just about to break wave of our experience now. And the wave is ever changing. And we are, sort of just adjusting to be on the edge of that wave. I suppose I'm using a surfing analogy here. Yeah. So, it's just like there we are, right on the edge all the time, and adjusting to the conditions all the time, but not with the mind. Just like a surfer does. As soon as you start thinking, you're off. So it's just like you're completely in the experience, and the soma and the awareness is doing it.
Yeah, I find that what I call relaxing down physically translates into just letting go.
Yeah.
I found that you were saying, well, where does your awareness go to? I found that it sort of settled after trying various places. It settled up into almost like into the dome of my head.
Oh yeah.
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 And there wasn't much thought going on.
Yeah.
When it was there.
Yeah.
My last question is, how do we identify access concentration?
Well, as I said, it's when you notice that the hindrances aren't happening.
Oh, that's as simple as that. Okay.
As simple as that. Yeah. 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 So, I mean, there are other ways in which we can talk about it. That's the most obvious one. Yeah. If you just opened your experience, is there hindrancing going on right now? Nope. Then that's access, and it doesn't mean that thoughts have stopped. But thoughts are will now be kind of background thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not coming into the foreground.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Somebody was waving their hand just before Alan came in.
Yeah, that was me. Hello.
Okay.
That was me, Major Mudra.
Okay.
I just wanted to say how you said, where does awareness want to go? And that was really, that had a really strong and very helpful effect on me. Because I was realising I tried to make my awareness go somewhere. Actually, it didn't want to go there at all. So it was really, really effective. And so much less effort.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think what we're working with there in large part actually, is the desire for control. Yeah. I mean, we do feel, again, it's something which is kind of inbred in us in a way, that if we can be in control, then it's okay. But actually, a lot of the time, we don't need to be in control. I'd even say, arguably, we don't need to be in control any of the time, because we can't actually be in control. But that's more of a kind of insight thing. Yeah. But it's just like let go of control and see, when you're attuned and sensitive to within your being, then it happens quite naturally. Yeah, and the awareness just goes where appropriate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, look, let's just have a short break and come back at 5 to 12. And I'd suggest keeping relatively quiet if you can during the break. So, it might be good to just mute and remain mute in your particular situation. So see you at 5 to. Okay, so we'll resume. Yeah, so we're, I guess we're moving towards the first dhyana, but I think for this morning, I won't take it further necessarily than access. Of course, if you go beyond access, that is absolutely fine. But one thing worth noting is with these practices, or with any approach to practice really, but I think possibly particularly so with how we characterize it, getting into dhyana. Don't get into dhyana. I mean, in other words, don't approach it in a way that I am going to get into dhyana. Yeah, the important thing is just to do whatever is relevant at this moment to deepen initially into access, and then then bring in the conditions whereby dhyana can begin to emerge. So as the mind quietens down, and it will. I mean, obviously, on a longer retreat or on a residential retreat, there's plenty of time for the mind to quieten. It's obviously a bit different on a weekend retreat online, but even so, the mind can begin to quieten. And I mean, by the way, the less input, the better. If you can possibly avoid the news and the media and all that sort of thing and what's going on in the world during this weekend, and just bear in mind that what we're doing here, we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it, in order to help others, to be able to communicate the Dharma to others. We're not doing this from a kind of insular point of view, but for this to be most effective, we do need to have the appropriate conditions. Yeah, so each of us has our own particular conditions. I happen to be living in a retreat center, but I'm surrounded by plenty of potential distractions, and so is everybody else. Yeah, so just bear all that in mind. But the main thing is just staying with the conditions and not getting into. Well, I mean, one thing is Lee Brassington makes this point. If there's desire to get into dhyana or even desire to get into access, that's a hindrance. Yeah. So it's like you have to sort of let go of desiring to be there. Actually, he uses a very nice analogy. I just read it this morning, or a little story that somebody else makes. I can't remember who it was, but the thing is, if you're say going on a journey and somebody says, well, you have to go there, then you have to turn left, then you go straight on, then you come to a roundabout, then you go right. What you're doing as you go through those instructions is just to remember what's relevant now. It's no good thinking all the time about the end of the journey, because then you're not going to be aware of, you'll miss your turn, so to speak. So it's exactly the same in terms of cultivating dhyana. Yeah, just be aware of where you are now and what the next turn is, so to speak, not the end of the road. So we've got half an hour left, so we'll just do another 20-25 minutes of much the same really, and just see if we can settle down more and settle more into access or basic presence in our experience in the area of the soma that we're being aware of. So once you've got your basic comfortable position there, just sit. So just get a general sense of how it is now with the mind and the body. And then just let the awareness come to the heart, the general heart area, and open to metta. Just open to a sense of kindness right now, kindness in what you're doing, the kindness of what you're doing in doing this meditation practice, goodwill, warmth, compassion, love. And just let that imbue your whole being. Just let it be. And just let it be there as you bring the awareness to the sensations of the grounding of the posture. And really feel grounded in those sensations. Let the awareness be grounded in those sensations. Notice to what extent you can experience those sensations as somewhat tingly or vibrational or energetic. Let go of the idea that this is just a solid, heavy experience, and notice the vibrational quality of the sensations. And then if you wish to, you can use the breathing up from the earth to bring lift and more energy into the posture and into the soma, into the body. Check the alignment of the head by adjusting the chin. Let the breath now be natural. Check the poise of the upper body. And then sweep awareness through, letting go of whatever holdings or contractions you can let go of. And if you wish, you can imagine them sort of dropping through the space of the body, through the floor into the earth below. And then be the whole breathing body. Let the awareness take it all in. And just let the awareness discern what would be beneficial in terms of allowing the mind to settle and finding non-distractibility. How little effort do you actually need to use? What level of effort is necessary? And where does awareness tend to want to focus? So always using the discerning quality of awareness rather than the conceptualizing mind in terms of adjusting, noticing. The mind will probably want to have its little commentary, but if you don't give it any regard, that's fine. Just let it get on with it and let the awareness be somatically embodied. Awareness is here naturally, and the sensations we're focusing on are here naturally. So they just need to be brought together or remain together. And the only possible disturbance is the thinking mind, the conceptualizing mind. Looking for presence in the sensations of focus. Keep letting go of effort until you reach the bare minimum needed. And along with that, relax again and again. Now, if proliferation is pretty well quietened down and you're present and awake, just open out to the whole breathing body, the whole mass of sensations of the body. And notice the degree to which those sensations are vibrational or energetic or tingly. and all the varying qualities of sensation of the somatic body inseparable from the breathing. Now, can you find any area of pleasure, body pleasure, somatic pleasure, however subtle? Is there pleasure in the body experience? So there could well be pain or discomfort in the body experience, but just leave that alone. Let the awareness come towards any pleasure, any sense of pleasure. Now, if the hindrances have been quiet for some time, several minutes maybe, and you're aware of any pleasure in the body, however subtle, however slight, just let that become your object. Let the awareness inhabit that area of pleasure. Which means dropping awareness of the rhythm of the breath. Okay, and then let go, relax out of making any particular effort. Okay, so in that last couple of minutes, I just nudged it towards cultivating the first dhyana. But I mean, did anyone sort of relate to that sense of finding pleasure in the body, or indeed not, or any other observations? Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely, but definitely in relation to the movement of the breath. So I did come a bit unstuck when you were kind of saying that pleasure is not in relation to the breath. So one of the ways I can tune into that pleasure is the smoothness of the breath moving in and out of my body.
Yeah.
So when you said to kind of, I think you said something like not in relation to the movement of the breath. So you're talking about something about recognizing pleasure as an entity in its own right, are you? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So pleasure is yeah, it's just pleasure. It's just pleasure. So is like for you. It's coming from the breath. Yeah. But don't be so don't be so concerned about the breath. Just be more concerned about the pleasure. Yeah.
Okay. So the smoothness, as I would say, the sensation of pleasurable smoothness. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So it's focusing on the pleasure itself. And there'll usually be something else going along with the pleasure. There's something, if you like, causing the pleasure, and it can be the breath.
Okay.
So,
all right, thank you. Yeah.
It's a matter of I mean, they're both together, and it's a matter of where you bring your focus within that.
Right, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments?
I just wonder what happens to feelings. I mean, what I would call heart feelings, or it's just a word, but it means.
Yeah. Well, they're either there or they're not. Yeah, I mean, if they're part of your experience, and if they're not, they're not, which is true of everything. Yeah. So if those sort of feelings are there, well, I mean, feeling. If I use the word feeling, I just mean pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. I'm using that in the strictly technical sense of Vedana. Yeah, but the heart is also present. And actually, I was, as I was leading towards the end of that, I was just debating whether to bring that aspect in, but I think I'll bring that in this afternoon.
Later.
Yeah.
But for now, I just feel it as there's a filter. This is a filter, really, for everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, the important thing is not to deny any aspect of your experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's there. Yeah. What's that? Who was good? Somebody else was waving.
Yeah, I wanted to, I just wanted to say that I love the idea of hardly any effort in meditation, and what happens when you've been saying that is that I feel very natural. Yeah, I just feel really natural with myself. So then it's okay. I can do what I want. It's like, like you're saying, yeah, you know how to do it. Drop as much as you can, and then I know how to do it. So
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
really
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, the body knows how to do it.
Yeah.
The mind has all sorts of opinions about how to do it, but if you can let go of that, you find that the body knows.
Yeah. I think it's great. Like naturalness around meditation is just brilliant. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Anyone else before we close for lunch?
Yeah. Yes. I'd just like to say that the analogy of the surfing sounds very helpful. Yeah, and it's applied to so many bits, like adjusting.
Yeah.
All the bits. Whether it was papancha or just too much attention outside of what you're doing. And your teachings of putting the breath lower or higher. It brought all that together.
Oh, good.
Thinking of it as surfing.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, sometimes these metaphors can be really useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, I think there's plenty of time to ask or questions or make further observations this afternoon. In fact, we'll start with that. What time are we starting again, Prabhakari?
2:15.
Okay, 2:15. So yeah, we'll take our lunch break or whatever you're going to do, and see you at 2:15. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, do we leave the room and get let in?